Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. Now, the Telegraph newspaper, citing leaked documents, satellite imagery, and analysis by the specialist firm DroneSec, says Russia has built or expanded a network of long-range drone bases in western Russia, with some sites potentially putting parts of NATO territory, including Warsaw, within reach. Now, the infrastructure is already being used against Ukraine, while NATO is facing fresh pressure to adapt its air defenses and rules of engagement. Joining us now to discuss it all is Louis Wierenga, lecturer in international relations at the Baltic Defence College. Good to have you back with us. Welcome.
Great to be back, Sasha. Always a pleasure.
So we have this information. Now, it's not verified, precise. It's coming from the Telegraph. But nevertheless, I mean, how plausible is this? How seriously can we take it if it indeed is true?
I think we need to take it very seriously because the Institute for the Study of War, as of last March of this past year, they assessed that Russia has entered what they call Phase 0, which is what is commonly referred to as hybrid warfare. And what they're putting forward is that this informational and psychological condition-setting phase of their campaign is directed at NATO member states. And so while they're below the kinetic threshold, they aim to try to set the information in the cognitive tone, and they could use things like false flag operations. We see drone incursions, we see sabotage in the maritime domain, and also cyber attacks as well. And this Wealth report that is based on satellite imagery as well as the Telegraph investigation is fairly alarming because there have been drone sightings in Romania and Poland and Moldova. Even in Germany, there have been UAVs that have been above critical points there. And it's boundary testing and it's Phase 0, but it's also sort of going into Vladimir Putin not really caring if he strikes or violates Allied territory in his efforts to continue the war of aggression against Ukraine. So I think we should take this very seriously. They're looking at these Geran-4 and 5 drones to strike deeper into Western Ukraine, and they're trying to leverage the speed and survivability in order to try and penetrate the Ukrainian air defenses. So I think NATO is prepared. They're stepping up in all aspects of all domains to try and successfully deter any type of Russian aggression. But the bellwether will be what happens with Ukraine.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you in a moment about these Geran-4 and 5 drones the Russians are making, because I think that's an interesting one. Let's jump on it right now, because apparently they're going to be armed with some sort of air-to-air missile system. So, I mean, that would be a danger also for fighter jets, shooting them down. How does this come into the calculus, and do we have enough to stop it?
Well, right now, the 3, 4, and 5 variations of the Geran are equipped with significantly powerful jet engines, which could allow these to fly faster and potentially evade air defense systems. So they might be leveraging new launch sites, which can allow higher precision strikes against the Ukrainians. And it's also, I think, an opportunity for allies to work more with Ukraine. Just a couple of months ago, SACEUR, General Grinkiewicz, was asked in the U.S. Senate how long it would take Europe to start to lead the continent's conventional defense. And his assessment would be that by 2035, they will be, if the warfighting capacity and defense industrial base keeps growing. And this is a really good opportunity for allies to work across the Atlantic together in order to successfully deter Russia. And there are some positive signs about that with the latest bill, the sanctions bill against Russia that passed in the Senate 86-12. And that bill has been supported by Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, as well as President Trump. So it'll remain to see what happens there, but I think that there's a growing sentiment inside of both houses, on the Republican side as well, that support for Ukraine is now paramount to helping Europe get to where they need to be.
Mm-hmm. I want to ask you, I mean, it's a difficult question, but I'm curious, capability versus intent. I mean, we've seen a lot of the capability of what Russia can do. Unfortunately, Ukraine experiences it every day. But at the same time, if we're looking at what's happened on NATO's eastern flank, I mean, yes, the Romanians have said one of those drones shot down was likely Russian, but the other ones seem to have been just Ukrainians, drones that have been jammed or veered off course. So I'm just wondering, and also the capability and the intent of Russia right now. I mean, is the strategy we have right now in the West and NATO, is that fit for that? Or at what point do we distinguish those two? I mean, those are two very difficult concepts right now.
They are, but whenever the Russians try and do, we can do it better. And I think that that's something to we shouldn't get too calm and comfortable, but I think that the experience that we've seen from the Ukrainians has been quite remarkable. And I think that that gives us more of a positive outlook on what's going on. And there are different NATO exercises that are testing Europe's ability to combat and deter hybrid attempts as well as conventional attempts as well. And so we can unfortunately probably brace to see more of these types of things happen. But for example, the NAC met a week ago to discuss a series of recent airspace violations in Poland and Romania and all of these recurring drone incidents, and full solidarity across the board from all allies, and they are putting this the responsibility on the Kremlin. And I think that that is one thing that right now alliance cohesion is actually relatively strong. I think that the political maneuvering between the United States and European allies has led to the vast majority of allies understanding that the security environment fundamentally changed in 2022 and after 2022. And so you made the point about intent versus capability. Well, we're growing to meet those targets together as allies, and I think that that makes us much stronger. And Russia is currently in a bind, and Putin obviously is unwilling to back down. And the ongoing events in the Middle East are being tied to Europe. So there's a global security environment that NATO is showing and demonstrating with each of these phase zero incidents that it's fit for purpose.
Mm-hmm. Right. And also in terms of my next question, what's being apparently announced by Ukrainian intelligence that the Russians are now developing a new type of drone specifically designed to attack electricity pylons. I mean, this is going to, if that indeed is confirmed, we don't know their capability yet, but I mean, how much of a dangerous development is that, and what can we do for Ukraine, or how can Ukraine itself have the capabilities to counter that?
Well, electronic warfare is one of the things that I mentioned is part of the phase zero operations, and it could be a false flag. I think that one of the aspects that Russia has unsuccessfully tried to do is try to break Western resolve to support Ukraine. They haven't been able to do that because the more they attack Ukraine, the more they kill innocent people, and the more they continue this, well, the globe has said that they're wrong. We understand why NATO exists. We understand the value of democracy, and also the Ukrainians. I'd say to their credit, in terms of foreign policy, they've been very, very proactive in keeping that going, and they have not lost the resolve or the resilience when they are bogged down with these atrocities. And their capability to strike inside of Russia is very telling, and I think that if the more they keep that, and the big game changer really was, I'll go back to my previous comment about the sanctions package. Once that targets third parties who buy Russian oil and gas, I think that will be changing the calculus fairly significantly, and then we'll probably see an uptick in hybrid attacks or phase zero attacks against allied countries. So we have to be prepared for the security environments entering into even yet another phase after 2022.
And also, speaking of being prepared, there's a current exercise running in Romania. I believe it's Eagle Spearhead. Involves around 1,000 troops from 7 NATO countries. Romania, obviously, we mentioned earlier, that's seen several incursions of drones crashing. It's run right now under France as the main framework nation. But just give us your take. I mean, is it already, in terms of timing, has that been in the calendar, this exercise? What can we glean from it?
Sure. I think that, this is an exercise in interoperability. So there were over 1,000 NATO troops from France taking the charge, Romania being the host nation, as well as Portugal, Italy, Poland, Spain, Luxembourg, and North Macedonia. And the purpose of this exercise was to test combat capabilities and integration of a multinational battalion, but also looking at the ability to last and adapt in high-intensity combined combat operations. So this was a tactical situation that involved adversary forces coming from the south and east, and they were trying to take charge of, or take control, rather, of a specific region. So these types of things, This is a show of force of other allies stepping up to the plate, and I think that it's received fairly positive press from France as well. France, also being in Estonia, is becoming more invested in the region. So there's a lot of interest from allied countries, and I think that, again, I will only say that I'm not being an optimist just for the sake of being an optimist. I think that this is really multinational in effort, and that's just something that the Russians don't have, and they're not able to get the cognitive edge on us either, despite their many attempts.
Yeah, so I mean, I was going to ask you just to close in terms of one final piece of information, what we've seen this last week, what we've heard of these new developments. What's your assessment? I mean, Eastern Flank NATO, are we ready? Just before we close.
Well, the answer to that is yes. I think that Russia is not. I don't think they have the stomach for a full kinetic incursion yet, and the momentum is likely not going to stop. And as long as that's kept up, that's going to be a successful deterrent. But we can't take our eyes off the ball. For example, complacency is not something that we can do. I mean, there was a saying in the U.S. Marine Corps when I was in the Marine Corps. Pray for peace, prepare for war. So unfortunately, we're going to have to continue for years to come to counter this threat using a deterrent.
Right. So with that, also, we leave it on Semper Fi, Semper Fidelis, always resilient, always ready. Thanks for that. Always a pleasure having with us Louis Wierenga there. Much appreciated.
Semper Fi. Thanks for having me, Sascha.
And thank you for watching World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.